lumber yards on almost every neighborhood. It was a recipe for disaster. That fire burned for 4 days. It burned 3 days. It burned 4.5 miles of the city down. It left a third of the population homeless, and it killed 300 people. After the fire burnt itself out, everybody else wrote us off. They said, no way Chicago bouncing back from this tragedy. But we're the city of big shoulders. You know what we did? We gathered up all that debris from that fire. We pushed it out into the lake. We made our city bigger. You're going to see buildings built on the landfill of the Great Chicago Fire a little later on in our journey. And we used it as a reset. Architects from all over the world came, and we rebuilt our city in 22 years. We're pretty proud of that. Wanted to show the world what we had accomplished. Kind of hard to do in 1890, no TV, no internet. But there were World's Fairs. And we got wind of one that was being planned, the World's Columbian Exhibition of 1893. And we thought, yeah, let's get the fair. You know, Paris just had one, unveiled the Eiffel Tower. Everybody was still talking about that. So this will bring people to Chicago. Sent our best politicians to the East Coast to lobby for that fair. They lobbied so hard, a New York newspaper wrote, boy, are we sick of those blowhards in Chicago blathering on about how great their city is. What a bunch of windy windbags. And that's how we got another one of our nicknames, the Windy City, from our blowhard politicians. But they got us the fair. It was pretty amazing. Ran for 5 months. Half the population of the United States came to that fair. Even had our own Eiffel Tower, only it wasn't a tower. It was the world's very first Ferris wheel, invented by George Ferris of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So there's part of what's going on, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There we go. Woo! All right, I got one more story to tell you about the river, but I'm going to save that. I mean, an old 1800 story about the river. I'm going to save that for the South Branch. I got a newer story to tell you that happened in 1992, and it happened right here on this bridge right here. Do you notice in front of the bridges there are these pylons? What they're doing is they're protecting the bridge from runaway barges. This is a working river. We have barges on it every day. So those pylons, you'll see it on this side of the boat. There are a bunch of logs that are lashed together, and you have to pound those into the riverbed to get them to stay. Well, they were putting new ones in here in 1992, and somebody neglected to tell them that there were 62 miles of tunnels underneath the city of Chicago, and they punctured one. The next morning, everybody was showing up at work in downtown Chicago, and all the basements were filling up with water. Nobody could figure out where it was coming from. It wasn't until we saw fish flopping around on the floor of the Thompson Center that we realized it was coming from the river. By then they discovered the big whirlpool here, and they're throwing mattresses and they're throwing concrete and everything they can into that hole. Finally the Navy came in with some divers and sealed it up with concrete, but the damage was done. $1 billion worth of damage, and it took 6 months to clean up. There's a little tragic story for you, but how about this beauty? Isn't that awesome? That is a piece of history. That is a railroad bridge that is no longer used, but it's a national monument, so we're keeping it here to remind us that railroad built Chicago. Even though the river is how we got discovered, it was the railroad that built us. They were the engines of our prosperity. We became the rail capital of the nation, and in many ways still are. So when it came time to build our buildings, we didn't move the railroad tracks out of the way. We built over them or around them. We owed them everything. All the buildings you're going to see on the South Branch of the Chicago River on the right side of the boat are built over railroad tracks. And each one presented unique problems to the architects. I'm going to show you how the architects solved it. Let's go back to the wall right here with the holes in it and those fans. Those fans are actually venting out fumes